Hey y'all, I'm going to show you what we had for dinner this week on the January Pantry Challenge. This is hosted by Jessica at Three Rivers Homestead. It's the Three Rivers Homestead Challenge. And I made some macaroni and cheese. I fried some potatoes. I cut up an onion. And I'm going to use the smoked sausage that I had in the fridge. I'm just going to fry that together until the onions are done. I also opened a can of peas and heated that up with some butter and salt and pepper. And this was so good. And now I'm going to make some barbecue chicken thighs. I've got these out of the freezer. They're not quite thawed out yet, but I will put them in the crock pot, but I'm going to cook them in the cast iron skillet for a few minutes. They're so good like that, and it's worth the extra step. I'm going to cover them with some barbecue seasoning. This seasoning is so good, but if you don't have this, you can use salt, pepper, onion powder, garlic powder, and some seasoning salt. It's got a lot of seasoning salt in there. I think that's why I like it. But I'm just going to coat each side and fry it in the cast iron skillet. I like cooking mine first, especially when I'm making barbecue chicken, because if your chicken has a lot of liquid in it, it will water down the sauce and it won't be as good. So I think this is delicious. I especially love the skin when it's cooked like this. So I'm just going to brown these on both sides and then I'll put it in my crock pot. It's worth the extra step, I'm telling you. And I just picked up some barbecue sauce from Food Lion, so I'm just going to top it with the barbecue sauce. Go Tar Heels. I love this sauce. It was so good. And this made the house smell amazing all day. So just pour that over the top and just cook it either on 6 hours on low or high for 4 hours, and I did the 6 hours on low. It was so good. And you could put seasoning on the top of it, again, season your chicken, but I just like it like this. And I put it in the oven for a little bit and it was so good. And I just served it with some instant mashed potatoes that I had in my pantry and some canned corn, and it was a quick and easy meal and it was delicious. And now I made some sloppy joes at the beginning of the week. I'll have that video later, but I could not figure out what to do with it, so I thought, why not make it into a casserole? I think I had a little bit more noodles than sauce, so next time I won't use as much noodles, but this was so good. All I did was mix that sloppy joe mix and heat it up with the pasta, and I put some cheese on top and put it in the oven, and this was delicious. I think Doug ate 3/4 of it. It was that good, so I'll definitely do that again. And it's not a pantry challenge unless you make some Rice Krispie treats, even though these are so dangerous. I could probably eat the whole tray by myself, but they were really delicious. And now we're going to start on another comfort meal that I love. It's chuck roast in a jar, and I love having that and some canned chicken on hand. And I've got my white rice and my can of peas and some crescent rolls. This was done by the time the crescent rolls was done. It was just so easy, and I love having all this on hand. I might not have the crescent rolls all the time, but I always have the beef and peas and things like that I can make basically a fast food meal. It was about 20 minutes and I had this done. I did open one more jar of the beef because it wasn't quite enough. I think one jar will feed 2 people, but we needed a little bit more than that. And I'm just making a slurry of cornstarch and water so it will thicken up and make a delicious broth to go over that rice. And I always make this rice the way my grandma did, with some canned milk, butter, salt, and pepper. It's just so delicious. You've got to try it if you've never done that before. But this was such an easy and delicious meal and got it on the table in just a few minutes. So that was what we had tonight. And tonight I am making some pinto beans. I had canned some the other week and I thought that would be good for tonight for dinner. So I'm just going to put them in my pressure cooker. And that's what I like about this one, is you can run it under cold water and stop it, and you don't have to wait till it comes down from pressure. Alright, now they're done and I'm going to season them. I've always heard that if you put salt in them while you're cooking them, that it'll make it tough. So let me know down below if you salt yours before you cook or after. And I did taste them and they needed a good bit of seasoning. I do have bacon in there, but I did add a bouillon cube, but I didn't want to add it a whole lot and make it taste like chicken broth. So I did that and then added some salt, pepper, and some onion powder, and it was perfect. So I don't know about you, but I think that it would probably work either way. But let me know down below if you salt before or after. And when you have pinto beans, you got to have some fried potatoes. I don't know why I didn't fry some onions in there. I usually do that, but I'm a person that has to have the same thing with certain foods, and I've got to have fried potatoes and I've got to have some cabbage. So I'm making some slaw. I would, if I had a bigger head of cabbage, I would have made fried cabbage and coleslaw because I love both together. But I make my slaw with mayonnaise, sugar, salt, pepper, and a little splash of vinegar. Are you sugar or no sugar? I put sugar in mine. My sister-in-law doesn't, but I love a little bit of sugar. I don't want it too sweet, but I like mine a little bit sweet. So I'm just going to mix mine together. I don't use a recipe, and I'll just put that in the fridge till we're ready to eat. And I found this yellow Martha White cornbread mix in the pantry, and oh my goodness, I'm gonna have to buy up some more when I get to go back to the grocery store. But these were so good, and I was so hungry. I was like, I don't want to put this in the oven, so I made them on the stovetop. I fried them in the cast iron skillet, and oh my goodness, I don't think I'll go back to making a pan of cornbread because these were so good and easy to make. And I just melted some butter and bacon fat in there, and I fried them. I did just use the package directions and just fried them, and that's all I did, and they were so good. I think next time I'll try and put some cut up jalapenos in it, maybe some corn and some chilies, but these were really easy to make and really delicious, and I had dinner on the table in no time. So I would definitely pick some more of these up when I can go to the grocery store after the challenge is over. But this was another 10 out of 10 dinner. This always reminds me of my grandma because she always made stuff like this, and I didn't like it. I would have rather had a hamburger from McDonald's, but I really appreciate her and all the meals that she made for us. She loved her cornbread. My grandpa and grandma always ate cornbread and milk when they went to bed, before they went to bed, so this reminds me of them. And I added in a can of my home canned beets just because I love those things. They were so good, and they just made this meal. And I'm going to make Doug some chicken salad for his lunch. I ran out of meats for his sandwiches, so I thought I would mix him up some chicken salad using my home canned chicken and my home canned relish. Add some mayonnaise in there, some salt and pepper, and you can also add in some chopped up celery if you would like, but this is just so good like it is. And I just mixed that together and gave him some crackers, and that was his lunch. And I defrosted some cube steaks I had in the freezer from a cow that we had went in with my sister on, and I got 2 packs, but one I think would have been enough, but we'll have lots of delicious leftovers. And I just salt and peppered the meat, and then I salt and peppered the flour, and I put some onion powder and garlic powder in there. You want to make sure you really season this flour because it's going to give that meat lots of flavor. And I just stirred that up and dip the steaks in. You could also dip them in some milk and egg too, but I'm just dipping them in the flour for tonight, and they were so good. And if you lay them on your tray and they look like the flour is being absorbed, just keep putting them in the flour. I think that makes a really easy or really delicious crust on them. I did find some biscuits in the freezer, so I'm gonna put those in the oven because they're gonna take a long time to cook. And I'm making some mashed potatoes. I'm using my pressure cooker a lot this week. It just makes everything taste a lot better, I think. So now I'm going to dip them in the flour one more time before I put them in the oil. And I'm just going to fry them just until they're brown on both sides. And then I've got a tray in the oven that I've got it on like 200 degrees just to keep warm. That way you won't overcook the steaks. And you don't want to set them on like a paper towel because that will make them soggy. So I just fry mine on both sides just until they're browned, and that way you won't overcook them because there's nothing worse than an overcooked piece of steak, I'm telling you. So I did have to change my oil one time because it was getting a little bit dark in there, and I'm making gravy, so I didn't want the burn parts in there. So I'm adding my flour to my oil that I had left over. I wish I could give you a recipe for gravy, but I think you just have to do it so many times before you get it down. But I'm just adding in some flour until it turns into a paste. You don't want it to look like this you don't want it to be liquid, you want it to be a paste. So I'm just gonna stir that around until it becomes a paste, and I'm gonna let it cook out all that flour taste and let it sit for a minute. And now I'm going to make my mashed potatoes. I just mashed them up with some butter, salt, and pepper and milk. Now I'm going to come back to my gravy and show you my trick. I think this is the most important step. And I use water and milk, but you have to use cold water and you will not get any lumps. If you use cold water or cold liquid and stir, 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 that is the trick to it, I'm telling you. So just make sure you stir it around really good and then you'll add in your milk. But sometimes I was getting busy and I was doing other things and I wasn't stirring it as much as I needed to, but it still didn't have any lumps in there. Just make sure you continue to stir that and stir that flour in there until it gets combined. And I took 2 packs of corn out of my freezer. I have so many packs of corn I got to use up. So all I did was just put it in the pan with some butter and some salt and pepper. And here I am. See, I got busy and I needed to stir it, but look, there is no lumps in this gravy and it's so delicious. And look at this, it's like a painting. I could probably frame that on my wall. It's so beautiful. But we enjoyed this meal so much. All this week's meals were just delicious. I mean, 10 out of 10 on all of them. They were just the ultimate comfort food. So look at this beautiful gravy. And I even ate it the next day on a biscuit for breakfast, and I even made Doug his lunch and made him a plate of this. This was so good, y'all. I did not put enough gravy on my plate, but I cannot say enough about this meal. So I hope y'all enjoyed all these recipes, and I want to thank Jessica for hosting this challenge. It made me make some delicious recipes this week. I really want to thank y'all for watching. I really appreciate you all. I hope you have a great week, and I'll see you in the next video.